This has to be one of the craziest cakes I've ever made. One of my regular customers requested this 3-tiered dinosaur themed cake. She specifically requested for the middle tier to be a dinosaur egg with a baby dino hatching from it, as well as adding some sculpted dinos. I started out by frosting the bottom tier in this light shade of green buttercream. Then I added this edible image leaf print all around the sides of the cake, and I did use some fondant behind it. Next, I sculpted this egg and covered in this ivory colored fondant. I used a brush to spray on those spots. I had my husband make me this center dowel that would support that top tier over the egg. I frosted the top tier in that same shade of light muted green color. Then I sculpted that baby dino, which came out so cute. Since I'm going to make it look like he's hatching from the egg, I sculpt him in different parts. First, I place his head and then I add the tail. And I am using sticks to attach these just to make sure that they don't go anywhere. Then I think my favorite detail were these feet with claws that I sculpted. I added those side by side right in front of the egg. Next, I grabbed my black food coloring and a small brush to paint these little cracks around the dinosaur's neck. I wanted this to look like that egg was cracking, and I also painted some around the claws as well. And the last detail that I add to make it look like that dino is hatching from the egg are these little eggshell pieces. I used that leftover ivory colored fondant that I used for the egg. I cut out these random shapes using my X-Acto knife, and then I added those splattered spots. I add a couple more claws by the neck to make him look like he's climbing out. Next, I made this rope by twisting brown and ivory colored rolled out fondant. I placed a couple of these onto that top tier, sort of intersecting. Then I cut out several of these small leaves. I don't have a cutter this size or shape, so I ended up just using an X-Acto knife and freehanding all of them. And I also used my airbrush on these just to give them a little more depth. I carefully placed these in pairs along the twisted vines, and at this point, just taking a step back and looking at the cake, I couldn't believe that I had already made this. But there's still several details that I need to add, like this leaf that I freehanded and then airbrushed all of those colors. I placed it towards the side of the bottom tier, and then I sculpted this pterodactyl that I add to the top tier. I attach it to a stick first, and then I carefully place it into the cake. Next, I cut out these taller fondant leaves, and instead of leaving them this flat, solid color, I wanted them to have some more texture. So I backed up some green buttercream and piped these little squiggles back and forth using a leaf piping tip on each one. I added a few of them onto sticks so they could literally stick out of the cake, but there was a few that I just placed onto the cake, and then I added the buttercream. And finally, there is one more dino that I sculpted out of Rice Krispies, fondant, and chocolate. It is the largest one, so I add this to the board, and now this dino cake is all done. I take a couple of pictures in my lightbox before loading it up for delivery. This party was the cutest. They had so many little activities, and all of the details were just amazing. Just look at those hats on the little chairs. Here's where the cake was displayed at the party. I hope you guys like this one.